Place card was cream embossed, expensive. It read Event Coordinator. Not my name. Stood at the rehearsal table long enough for it to feel intentional. There were 12 chairs arranged around polished oak, each assigned neatly in calligraphy. My sister-in-law, Patricia, sat 3 seats down, already sipping champagne like she owned the room. She looked at the card, then at me. "You're so good at organizing things," she said, smiling without warmth. There was no extra chair, no oversight, just absence. Marcus leaned toward me, his breath light with mint. "Just go with it. Don't make a scene." The room wasn't loud. It was curated, muted laughter, the clink of glass, the kind of country club restraint that passes for sophistication. And, in that quiet, I felt something rearrange inside me. For 3 years I had organized things. When Marcus's freelance income stalled, I set up structured deposits so his credit wouldn't dip. When he wanted membership at this club but didn't qualify on income verification, I added him under my primary account. When Patricia needed vendor coordination, I sent emails, negotiated rates, cross-checked contracts. Efficient, invisible. Event coordinator. It was almost funny. If it hadn't been so precise. I picked up the clipboard that sat beside the place card. Handwriting was on half the pages. I had color-coded the seating chart she'd just displaced me from. Marcus touched my wrist. "Please. Not tonight." There it was again. The reflex to minimize me in public, preserve comfort, fix optics. Realized that what embarrassed him wasn't the insult. It was the possibility I wouldn't absorb it. I didn't raise my voice. Look at Patricia again. I slipped my ring off. It surprised me how easily it moved. I'd lost weight over the past year. Dropped it into the nearest champagne flute. The sound was soft, a clean tap against glass. "Then I'm no longer yours," I said. Not dramatic, not loud, just accurate. There's a particular silence that happens when a room realizes something administrative has shifted. It isn't shock. It's recalibration. The club manager approached from the far end of the room. Navy blazer, measured expression. He'd met me twice before, both times when I signed renewal forms. "Miss Russo," he said gently, as though correcting a clerical error. "I believe there's been confusion about seating." He didn't look at Marcus. "You are listed as the primary member on this account. Mr. Hale is registered as your guest. We'll adjust the arrangement immediately." It was a simple sentence. No accusation. No spectacle. Axis moved. Staff brought a chair, not from storage, one taken from the head of the auxiliary table, was printed on a fresh card within minutes. Proper font. Proper placement. Patricia's smile faltered, not because she'd been reprimanded, but because the hierarchy she assumed had been clarified in front of witnesses. Looked at me differently then, not with affection. With calculation, as though reviewing paperwork, he should have read more carefully. I felt no surge of triumph. What I felt was exposure of the pattern, not of myself. The rehearsal resumed, but the tone had changed. Conversations were careful. Lauder thinned, didn't speak unless necessary. I answered logistical questions crisply. When vendors approached with last-minute clarifications, they addressed me directly. "Miss Russo, primary member." It wasn't the title that mattered. It was the acknowledgement of fact. Through dinner, Marcus leaned close again. "We can fix this?" I realized he meant optics, not behavior. "There's nothing to fix," I said. "Everything is just accurate now." He didn't argue, stared at the table as though the grain of the wood might provide strategy. By the end of the evening, Tricia thanked me for everything I've done. The phrasing had shifted, no longer teasing, almost deferential. She asked if I'd be attending the ceremony tomorrow. "I'll consider it," I replied. On the drive home, I didn't cry, rehearse speeches in my head. I reviewed accounts. The mortgage we'd been discussing, solely in my name. Joint savings he often referenced as ours. Structured under my tax ID. Access to this club, these rooms, this network, all routed through my signature. I had mistaken contribution for partnership. Tonight clarified the distinction. Marcus sat beside me in silence. For the first time, I didn't feel smaller than it. At a red light, took off the rest of my jewelry and placed it in the center console. Not as punishment, as inventory. Public humiliation hadn't broken me. It had removed the last excuse I had for staying convenient. Club would host its wedding tomorrow. Patricia would walk down the aisle. Marcus would decide what story he preferred to tell about tonight. But the paperwork was already filed. And this time, my name was exactly where it belonged.